So I've got one of the dogs here, Jake, sitting on the sofa. So if there's any heavy breathing or panting, that's where it's coming from. So today's main and first and last Bedford hand surgeon outpatient appointment I've been trying to get since July, I believe, was when the first time I joined Pemberley Surgery. And everybody that follows me know that I ended up on the safe treatment scheme on the 19th of September 2016 after fairly 3 visits or more to the same GP and one of her colleagues. And I tried to explain at the time the history goes back from the 13th of the 10th 2002 and obviously 2003 mental health, and that you can't combine it in a 10-minute appointment. Anyway, so when I ended up on the first safe treatment scheme from the 19th of September 2016 to the 31st of March 2017, they refused to seek funding and they refused to do all consultant requests, such as extra physio from the pain specialist in London, who also asked whether the funding was in place, because it would appear that the last 2 assessments I had and pain jab I had in London while in Bedford were not funded. This was one of the miscommunication stroke lies from Pemberley Surgery in Bedford. So, and then the safe treatment scheme also refused to do an ECG and several blood tests on behalf of Wellowing, Bedford and Luton East London Foundation Trust Mental Health Services. And therefore, when I ended up on the second safe treatment scheme from the 31st of March 2017 to the 19th of September 2017, there was a year delay for everything, and it was only when I joined Goldington Surgery in Bedford on the 29th of September 2017 that the ball started rolling, that I could both have pain management while having a follow-up of the surgery I had 2 years ago. And although it wouldn't be with the London hand surgeon, who's been in my wrist 4 times and known my wrist since 2003, so the hand surgeon I saw today was the first and the last time I will see him, unless it gets worse in a year or 4 years or 10 years or 15 years. Then they will go from there. He said basically to continue with pain management. He was aware of his colleague in pain management of 18 years. He says continue that. He's aware that I'll need harder or stronger wrist brace or support. He agrees with that. He agrees with the physio. He doesn't believe at the moment the Southampton NHS hospital or the Birmingham NHS hospital research programs on mid-carpal instability or palmar mid-carpal instability specialised physiotherapy has reached the NHS services across the whole of England and Wales and Scotland and the UK and Northern Ireland yet. And when I saw Mr. McCarthy at Homerton Hospital in January 2016, he said a similar thing, that there was lots of research around the world, possibly America and the UK and parts of Europe, where they were specialising in mid-carpal instability, palmar mid-carpal instability studies, yet this unfortunately still hasn't reached NHS 2 years later. So he said continue doing my basic physiotherapy. I did explain that sadly I've been told to avoid the clunk. Yeah, when I get an infection and I get what looks like and feels like an ulcer to me, when I get these ulcer type things, it's hard to wear the splint, and I will only wear it while travelling. So that means I use my wrist less, and therefore it's got its own pain because I can feel the bone dipping, and then it's got like the tendon ligament pain, as well as the complex regional pain syndrome pain in the limb. I basically will use it less when it's out of the splint. So most of the last 2 weekends it's been out of the splint. It's more painful because I can feel the bones out of alignment and there's this like strain. yet the splint is pressured onto the ulcer. Unfortunately, it's where one or two straps go, and the looser you have the splint, you're still winding up the ulcer, yet you're not keeping the bones in alignment anymore. So basically, keep up with the traditional physiotherapy I've been doing. Don't overuse the wrist or limb. Don't underuse the wrist and limb. That's basic advice that I've had from Mr. McCarthy at the Homerton Hospital, Miss Ang at the Royal London Hospital, Mr. Darwish back at Homerton Hospital, and then there was my own private medico-legal expert between 2005 to 2007. He also advised me to ditch certain physio. He told me to avoid the clunk or the snap like the plague, which I try and do. Unfortunately, even some physio, like moving the hand and the palm up and down, I can feel it clunk, and the left and the right, I can feel it clunk. If I had money, I do have a GoFund page. If I had the money to pay for left versus right philosophy live x-rays, it would demonstrate what instability is. On the bone side, it wouldn't demonstrate it on the ligament side, but you would see the bones at unstable instability, like unrational, not able to hold weight or bearing or movement. Doesn't function like a normal wrist joint. Anyway, sidetracking there for a minute. So continue with physio. When the ulcer thing clears up again, back to strong wrist support, stroke wrist brace, wrist straps, ones with metal plates in. I only come out for physio, which I often do once a day or twice a day, basic physio. That stops my hand stiffening up and stops my fingers stiffening up. To continue with stellar ganglion blocks. They used to last 6 months, on or after March 2009. They're at a stage now on the 22nd of August 2016, lasted 3 or 4 months, and the last one in Luton and Dunstable, which I would be told was my first and last stellar ganglion block. As of the 10th of October 2017, I was told this. Then I was booked in for the first and last stellar ganglion block on the 8th of November 2017. It again lasted 3 or 4 months. I made a complaint about the pain specialist at Luton because he didn't do a proper physical examination. He didn't put my hand through any range of motion, up, down, left, right, where he would have spotted the instability. He missed the swelling. He did spot the tremors. Anyway, the new pain specialist agreed with the old pain specialist from London, who I knew from March 2009 to the 1st of February 2017. So my new Bedford local pain specialist, who I should have been sent to, because both Bedford NHS Hospital and Milton Keynes, especially for people that don't drive, are much closer hospitals by both bus journeys only, or walking, or just a cab. Whereas Luton and Dunstable, it's walk, bus, train, bus, walk. So it's a lot longer. And my main Bedford NHS pain specialist now, that I met on the 19th of April 2018, says he can do stellar ganglion blocks regularly. He didn't say at what stage he would stop them, but my past London pain specialist said if they only last 1 or 2 months, that's when we look at a new range of treatment. My new pain specialist said he would also contact someone at Milton Keynes to see if they do both stellar ganglion blocks and pulse radio frequency on the same day in this part of the neck for complex regional pain syndrome, or whether they would only do them separately, and that once the stellar ganglion blocks reaches 1 or 2 months, then maybe I'll go on pulse radio frequency at Milton Keynes, because Bedford at the moment can't do pulse radio frequency, and it certainly can't do the two together. Yeah, he said a stellar ganglion block should take 10 to 15 minutes. it only has to be done at a hospital just in case there are rare complications. So I understood that. He was surprised that the guy that knew that stellate ganglion blocks at Luton and Dunstable worked for me wouldn't do it after the 8th of November 2017, even though it did last till February/March. So that was 3 or 4 months. I've never had pulse radio frequency. If it didn't work, there wasn't a backup. So he's happy to do stellate ganglion blocks at the Manor Hospital, which the NHS pay for as part of Bedford Hospital pain management MSK Circle privileges. He said he would also try and see if I could have a spinal tap, or at least have a spinal tap assessment at Basildon, or some hospital in Basildon, or something beginning with a B. I haven't seen the pain specialist letter yet. I don't know what advice he's giving the GP / me. The assessment was under 20 minutes, but he agreed that I had complex renal pain syndrome. He said, I can see the swelling in your left hand, your wrist. I can see that there's a tremor. And I also explained to him that things like music, and I have flare-ups and fluctuations like everyone does, yet the pain is always there 24/7. The pain doesn't take a holiday. It takes reduction from the drugs, the pregabalin, the cocodamol, the Butrans pain patch, and then stellate ganglion block. It reduces it, doesn't eliminate it. And then you have flare up and fluctuation. So if you did too much physio, or you did physio and say you sorted out like empty cans, empty plastic bottles, and was putting that in a recycling bin, and maybe had a bath and you were in the bath too long, so on and so forth, you can get a lot of intense swelling in the limb. Or in the past, unfortunately, people have bumped into me on a busy bus. Barging their way through London was a nightmare. Yet 1 or 2 bumps on the wrist or the left arm, my wrist would flare up in swelling and extra pain, increased pain. So you have the baseline pain that's there all the time, and then depending where the bump is, you have that increased trigger pain in that area only. The pain specialist knows the hand surgeon in Bedford, so it'll be interesting to see that he gets a copy of that and make him aware that I've got some form of arthritis now, only in the carpal area bones, so not near the ulna or the radius. So there are 8 carpal bones, 2 sets of 4 of them, and it seems to be bottom left, top left, right left, bottom right, top right, left top areas. So it seems to be the 4 corners of each carpal bone. The hand surgeon didn't say whether in his opinion my instability patterns have changed from when Miss Ang at the Royal London detailed the instability patterns in a great detail and referenced what kind of instability patterns she felt they were. He says in the first consultation, he said he'd probably send me back to Mr. McCarthy if he felt a fusion was needed, because he'd been in the wrist the most, and he would try and bypass that with MSK Circle. Yet after the x-rays, when it confirmed I had some form of arthritis, it sounded like he would do the limited or full fusion in the near future, yet that would have to be decided in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 years time, and hopefully he would still be the surgeon there. Mr. McCarthy might not be the surgeon at Homerton. He's discharged me and just said, don't underuse the wrist or limb, don't overuse the wrist or limb. Heavy splintage with plates, regular physiotherapy, continue with pain management, continue with pain specialist, continue with the treatments I'm doing, and it's just a wait and see game. So the more painful it becomes, then I may have to see him in like 6 months or a year's time. but I've been discharged officially. It depends how bad the pain becomes. And without seeing Mr. McCarthy, I don't know if the arthritis took place between May 2016 and May 2018, or when he was in the wrist 2 years ago taking out the neutectomy, whether there were early signs. Unfortunately, I moved to Bedford on the 13th of June, and the follow-up was on the 28th of June 2016. I hadn't got a Bedford GP, and I hadn't been given permission to go, and I knew funding had to be approved first. So I don't know if I don't know what type of arthritis it is, whether it is osteoarthritis, which mostly old people get in their 60s to 80s, because it's called the wear and tear arthritis, and bones and ligaments get old when we get old. But unfortunately, mid-carpal instability, the cartilage and the ligaments are so loose, there's bone on bone contact, and there's no gel or cushioning anymore, and so it's likely that form of arthritis. I will get a copy of the letter from the GP, send it to the pain specialist in Bedford, send it to mental health services, and I will probably never see the hand surgeon again unless the pain dramatically gets worse over the next 5, 8, 10 years. He seemed very friendly. I presumed from what I could tell he agreed with Miss Ang and Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Darwish. One was an orthopaedic surgeon and 2 were hand surgeons from London, and I presume he agrees with the private one that I had between 2005 and 2007 and agrees with the physio, and he obviously agrees with the pain specialist. He said I can see that there's swelling in the hand, and that's like 16 years after the incident. I can see that you've got some form of infection or ulcer, or basically infection he called it. I think it's an ulcer. And so I did think I was getting arthritis. Yet complex renal pain syndrome in itself causes so much pain, it's hard to tell, because you get the baseline pain, then you do too much that day with the limb, and the pain increases, and then the mid-carpal instability has its own sensation of pain and problems. So I don't know how old the arthritis is. It was one thing I didn't ask about, and I didn't ask about whether my shoulder needs surgery, because all the physio for the shoulder unfortunately worsens the instability, because you have to move your wrist in such a way that unfortunately makes it clunk, and therefore you can't rebuild the side shoulder strength. So for the last 8 years I've had dull ache and an ache with clicking and popping in my side shoulder. I'm going to give my shoulder another 2 years, and if it's still painful in 2020, clicking and popping, then I'm likely to see the hand surgeon in Bedford that I saw today, solely for the shoulder. And he might want to see the hand again, I don't know. But I'll go there and I'll give it 2 more years, then that's 10 years of shoulder problem with a dull ache, clicking and popping. And obviously I explained the pins and needles. There's 3 stages of intense pins and needles that last 15, 20 minutes to half an hour. And then of course there's a complex regional pain syndrome burning sensation from fingertips to the side shoulder stroke over the shoulder. And all the flare-ups happen in the hand, the wrist, the arm, the fingers, such as swelling, colour changes, temperature changes, skin irritation, dry skin, clammy skin, oversweating. Alright, this is the longest video I've done. I've done loads of 59-minute videos on Instagram. Hopefully hopefully YouTube will allow me to upload a 19-minute and 33-second video. Alright then, cheers, bye.